It is time for another episode of Mikey Likes You. I am Mike E. of Mikey Likes You. You are you who is liked. Before we get started, remember that you should visit my Patreon. If you enjoy what you hear or what you watch here on Mikey Likes You, there's a lot more of that, and it's a little bit more detailed, and it gives me the ability to work actually with you. There's 3 different tiers, and people seem to like it. I like doing it. I really do. So check it out. I will put a link in the show notes below. Why don't you go ahead and give me a like, put a comment, do something to help with the algorithm of both the audio podcast and the YouTube version. Turns out that means a lot. Subscribe, like, tell a friend, hit the little bell button, all that fun stuff. All right, so Mikey Likes You. Yes, let's do it. Oh, God, I got something in my eye. It's jizz. What? I didn't say that. I solicited for questions. I put out a little request. Me and my donkey, Ozzy Osbourne. I put out a little request for questions. You guys gave me questions at my socials, at Mike Catherwood, at MIkeyLIkesYou1, the number 1. And I'm going to pull them up and then give answers. That's how question and answer works. Let's get to it. Oh, Speedo McAwesome. I recognize you. How does your hair stay pretty much perfect after rolling in class? I will tell you, this is a man who does jiu-jitsu with me at Gracie Humaita, Cedar Park. One of the best academies I've ever seen. So, if you're in Hill Country, Texas, Gracie Humaita. Great Tim Kennedy is one of the founders, and it's an amazing place. A great vibe, great people. Anyway, I'll tell you, listen, people ask about my hair a lot. They really do. It's kind of crazy. It's genetics. I know it sounds like a cop-out, but I'm starting to believe so much of what our body does and how well it does it, it's a giant chunk of genetics. I've told the story about Carmen Electra having 2 bagels in the green room for Kevin and Bean and washing it down with a regular Coke. And, I've seen it firsthand, these celebrities that just like have, and even in my personal life, just normal people who have an inability to gain body fat and are naturally muscular. It's genetics, teeth, hair, longevity. I think I come from every grandfather I was lucky enough to have in my life on both sides. My mom's dad, my dad's dad. They died in their 90s with big, full heads of hair. My father he's in his late 70s, and in his mid 70s they detected cancer, lymphoma. Okay? Dude does chemotherapy. All his hair goes out. Now he's like 76 years old, no hair, chemotherapy. Like 6 months later, boom, bro. So I hit the lottery with hair genetics. And I think that there's just not much else I can say about that. How are you liking living in Texas? What do you miss most from living in California? From De La Luz 84. Well, I love living in Texas. I love it. I love the people. I love the culture. I love having a farm and the farm animals and the more kind of hands-on way of life. What do I miss most about living in California? Dodgers and Lakers, mostly Dodgers. I'm sure my family would want and expect me to say my family. It's my family. It's the Dodgers. And there's amazing Mexican food out here. You know what? Honestly, another one, Jewish food, like Jewish deli food. I love like classic old-fashioned Jewish American foods. Matzah and gefilte fish, lox, the whole thing. And there was, I don't know, it's certainly probably not as good as parts of New York City, but parts of LA had like a real high population of amazing Jewish restaurants. Jake Cantor's, Nate Now, the whole thing, And I miss that because I there's not a huge Jewish stronghold here in Texas. But I miss that, and I miss the Dodgers. I miss my family. I miss Jason Ellis and Tully and Kevin Kraft, and yeah. Martin Alum 93. My deadlift the last 2 times has caused me mild pain in my left lower back. How should I treat this? Do I keep lifting heavy when it feels better in a few days? No. Here's why. Because you shouldn't be hurting your lower back, your lumbar region. You shouldn't be hurting it deadlifting. It is a clear sign you are doing something wrong. It is incredibly common. It's very easy to kind of develop that, to shift into that, what they call like the hip shift or like the butt shift, and put an undue stress on your lumbar. But that's bottom line is you're not deadlifting well. Okay? You should get into a position where all your joints are stacked. Your hips are over your knees are over your ankles, and everything is and shoulders above all of that, all kind of in a straight line. And then when you go to pull, when the resistance comes from the bar, everything should stay at the same angles coming up. Meaning, if this is your torso, you don't want to go boom, boom. That shows that you have a deficiency in the bottom of the lift. You can do pauses at the bottom with lighter weights, and kind of develop strength in that area. You can do deficit deadlifts, which is what I do to kind of correct that. But you don't want to just go back after it and be like, oh, this is the way it goes. You clearly have a deficiency at the bottom portion of the deadlift, which is fine, and again, incredibly common. Some people have deficiencies in the lockout portion. They need to do some like wide, like snatch grip rows, build that upper back. Rack deads. I have found that training the hamstrings, giving in a more hypertrophy sense, 8 to 15 reps, higher volume, and then also deficit deadlifts has just really changed the way that I pull right off the ground. And I don't have back pain anymore, because as soon as my legs start to drive, my shoulders are coming up too, as opposed to legs drive and then butt goes in the air and then my shoulders are able to come up once it gets to like my kneecaps. It's not how it should go. And also here there's like an old people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about like to go around the internet telling people it's just like just squatted off the ground. No, it's not. It's not a squat. If it was a squat, it'd be a squat. This is a hinge. It's not a squat movement. It's not about knee flexion. Sure, your leg drive plays a big role getting it off the ground, but you want, like people then make a huge mistake. They get their butt way down to the ground and then try to squat it up, and that's where a lot of a lot of lumbar problems develop from that point, because people have this notion that they have to be so low down and they're trying to keep their chest erect, which is a good thing. You need a proud chest, tall chest. But if you have like really long legs in proportion to like your arms and your torso, that's not going to happen. So just get in the position that you can to keep it against your shins and get a good leg drive while also being able to pull with the hips, and your upper back, your torso comes up immediately. If you go up with the hips without your shoulders coming back, there's a problem. You have to be able to do that right from the start. OG Mike Hunt. I love your podcast so much. Thank you. What does "you live" joke refer to? I want to be in on the inside joke. I've always wondered. It's a reference to Boogie Nights. What is a near perfect film? Paul Thomas Anderson's 1998 masterpiece about the trials and tribulations of young Eddie Adams, who, when he found fame, was known as Dirk Diggler. There's a scene at the end after drugs and the lifestyle and bad decisions have taken their toll on Dirk Diggler, and he's now being replaced by a new up-and-coming young porn star by the name of Johnny Doe. And they're showing a scene, like a behind the scenes of a Johnny Doe new movie. And he is receiving a blowjob from a woman. and he has a gun to her head while she is doing that, providing that service. He's got a gun to her head, and he's deciding whether or not the quality of this BJ earns her life. And then he says, "Oh yeah, you live, yeah." And I laugh so hard because it's crazy. It's so awful. It's a terrible thing that happens. Even to the portrayal of it is terrible. But the fact that actor decided to do, he's like, instead of, "Yeah, you bitch, you live, you get to live," he's like, "Yeah, you live, yeah." And Dr. Drew and I used to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. And so then it just became, "You live" was like our aloha, where, hey, you live, We adopted it and then made it something positive, like, go live your life. You get to live. You're living. But it came from Boogie Nights. Let's see here. Mark Chenard, when did you know it was time to leave previous relationships? How did you know your wife was the one? I'm in a pickle. Well, I'll be honest, stuff like that, I think it's foolish to kind of give advice as if there's a right and a wrong, because there isn't. How do you get into a good relationship? I don't know. There's a million ways. And a lot of it's just living your best life, being the best person you can be, and then things kind of attract to you. How do you find your passion in life? People have these, and then people make money giving you answers to those questions, right? It's like, how do you know when your relationship is over? How do you know that he or she is the one? Very good questions. And I think something that people struggle with a lot. But I can't give you like a hard, fast answer. I don't think it is a binary issue. I don't know this person that you're in a relationship with. And I don't really know you, And so it's impossible to say, like, this is the right way or the wrong way to do it. And I'm not trying to dance around this. But I just wanted to point that out. Like, I'm a firm believer that there's no always and there's no never. That in reality, human existence, in certain aspects of science, absolutely, there's a right and a wrong. There's a clear cut. There's not debatably, there's concrete science and mathematics and stuff. And I just don't think human existence is that way. Ever. There's no right way or wrong way to raise a kid, or to deal with loss, or to, it's so nuanced, man. And beyond, it's to the point, it's so nuanced that it's not even really nuanced. It's just, it's like saying, like, how black is not even a color, it's just the absence of colors, right? Like, I don't think that there is even a scale. It's just an endless, infinite kind of idea, like the universe, human existence. I can give you my experience, and maybe it can give you something positive. How do you know to get out of a relationship? That I don't know. Because I, frankly, don't have a lot of experience of being the one who initiates that. I don't have that much experience with relationships. And that's by choice, and then also by happenstance. I've been married a long time. I was married before my current wife. That took up a lot of my 20s. And, now I've been married to Bianca. It'll be 10 years in like a month. So there's that. So I haven't been like bouncing around a relationship. And I don't know how to say this without sounding kind of misogynistic, but I just didn't really get into relationships. I'm I would typically be in sexual relationships. Lots. I was lucky to do that a lot with a lot of women, but I didn't only have like a handful of relationships. I feel like when you start making excuses for your partner internally, you start having these conversations with yourself, and it's like, yeah, well, that's not that bad that she did, because let me tell you what, she meant well, but the fact that she just showed up at work because she was angry, and I was in a meeting and I didn't answer my phone, but she's not nosy and not angry and jealous and immature. It's just like you got to look at, like, no, you're fucking rationalizing kind of toxic behavior. That's when you know. Or when there's toxic behavior. And dudes, I don't know about you ladies. I don't know because I'm not a lady. I've talked to my wife about it somewhat, but it's like, I can tell you guys, we all at some point in our life make the mistake of staying with girls who we identify it's a bad relationship, but she's hot, or you find her super hot, or the sex is great, and guys are just incapable of like separate, like our little head takes over. That happens so much. And don't do that. Don't do that. Don't ever, there should be zero abuse. Zero abuse. And it doesn't always boil down to physical. People underestimate. Sometimes the way people talk to each other, it's abusive. The way people deal with each other, or how dismissive they are. So that's when you know it's over. When it's just, people shouldn't create depression and suffering for other people. Plenty of that's going to happen just by virtue of being alive. You're going to lose people you love. You're going to have regrets, make bad decisions. You're going to get ill, whatever. You're going to lose a job. You're going to have catastrophe strike. And that's suffering. That's unavoidable. It's natural. Other people shouldn't be causing you, especially the people that you love the most or that are the most close to you, shouldn't be causing suffering. So that's one thing to watch out for. How did I know my wife was the one? I'll tell you, because when I was with Bianca, I always felt inspired to be a better guy. And it wasn't for the sake of, like trying to impress her. It was just that rather instinctively came to me by being with her and talking with her. I wanted to make myself a better man. And having her in my life has continued to do that. That is, so early on, that is when I decided that my wife was the one. You know? Let's see here. Colin Bloy. What cars you currently own? You used to post photos of them. Thanks. Well, I sold all of my cool cars, so that's why I don't post any pictures of them. I live on a really rough farm. The terrain is pretty rugged. It fucks my wife's car. My wife has a XC90, like a really nice Volvo SUV. And it's got like 22s and stuff, and so it's and so like me driving my GTO, I had a 66 GTO, I had a CTSV Cadillac, I had two of those, and then I had the SRT Jeep Grand Cherokee with the Hemi in it, but I just got rid of them. I have a 79 Jeep Chief, which is really sweet. So I shouldn't say all the cool cars are gone. I have that. But my motorcycle, all the like muscle cars are gone. Yeah, so that's it. I don't have any, like, if you're a big, super fast muscle car, macho guy car fan, then I'm now a disappointment, because I had many and now I have none. Are you natty from S-Muir 121? Yes. Man. And people, like, they get all butt hurt about that. And I will say, look, I haven't always been natty, and I have no problem with drugs, anabolic steroids and androgenic compounds, and I don't give a fuck. I could care less. And I used to use them when I was into bodybuilding. But people then, like, they see me with my shirt off, or they see me lifting or whatever, and they're like, you're 43 years old. It's impossible. Well, no, it's not impossible. First off, I'm not very big. I'm not a big guy. I'm like 173 pounds this morning. I weighed myself. 5'10", 173. So, given that, and that I am lean, and I have, like, I guess, a nice physique or whatever, and I have some muscle, but I'm not very big. And it's pretty easy to maintain my physique because I train a lot and I eat really well. And I've been doing it for like 20 years. That's what people, that's like, it's different if you're like 40 and you decide like, well, I better get on I've been a couch potato now. It's going to be a completely different ball game. I have a lot of training history and a lot of like years of monitoring what I eat and gauging that shit. So that's all I wanted to say. When people get into the natty or not bullshit, like it's not really difficult without drugs to be really, really big. It's not difficult without drugs to be really pretty lean and look great. It's really almost impossible to do both, especially if you're over a certain age. It can happen. There's genetic freaks out there. There absolutely is. But you just got to keep where I get skeptical, and I will get back to, I don't get skeptical because I don't give a fuck. I don't care if Mike O'Hearn or whoever is out, Liver King, who claims to be, I don't care if they claim to be natty. I don't care if they're using. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. But I will say, as far as like if you want to do your own smell test, it's really not that big a deal to be like 10% body fat and look great, like a movie star gets in shape for a role. It's really not that big of a deal to be like huge and pull big weight. It's really, you gotta like really start to get suspicious when it's both. When someone's huge, there's a lot of muscle mass, and they're ripped. It's, unless they're 22, it's you got to start wondering. Let's see here. What's the difference between stretching and priming from Trey Thinks? Well, there's a big difference. I can easily see how people can kind of confuse the two. And priming a lot of times is activations. Another way, it's warming up. It's a proper warm up, okay, especially for resistance training. And the difference is that stretching is static stretching, where you hold a stretch, which is not only ineffective, but it can be counterproductive and actually can cause more injury. There's a lot of science to show this now. Static, regular stretching, what we all think of when we think of stretching, like, let me hold this, stretch it out, yoga type stuff, is not something you want to do before athletic engagement, where you're going to fire your muscles. Now, mobility and moving through separate range of motion, sometimes exaggerated range of motion, sometimes so like leg swings, skipping. If you were to, let's say you're going to deadlift. By the way, on my YouTube page, I put my warm-up. I believe it's pretty thorough and pretty easy to get into, regardless of your level. Right here on my YouTube page, I'll put another link to it. But check it out. I put my warm-up for deadlifts, squats, things like that. You would want to get your upper back, right, and your glutes and your hammies ready to go. So for me, I would do something like kettlebell swings. Not too heavy. I wouldn't want to drain my energy from those muscles, but I want to feel those muscles, getting blood flowing to that area. That's essentially what you're doing. You're getting more and more blood flow going to that area and preparing the joints that you're going to use to move through that range of motion without any type of pain or any limitations. really good walking lunges, opening up your hip flexors. These are different than, say, just stretching. Like I'm going to touch my toes, I'm going to hold it there for 60 seconds. There's a big difference. Instead of doing that, you would want to do like Frankenstein walks, where you touch your toes, or bring your toes up to your hands and get higher and higher with each step. Okay? And kick your legs up, and then you're moving actively through a range of motion, and then trying to get larger and larger range of motion each time. It's a little bit more active, and it's going to be able to give you blood flow and preparation for what is to come. And that is the difference. Let's see here. Mick Wilson 69. How much hate do you receive over your old brow down video? Funniest shit ever. It is the funniest shit ever. That was a great song.
Okay, bro. How about I unbutton my shirt a little bit, huh? Smoke cigarette? Tell you where I'm coming from. Glendale! Browdown! Glendale's my town! Browdown! I love System of a Down! Browdown! Because I'm Armenian, bro! Covered in hair and jewelry from head to toe! Track car cologne ingrained in my chromosome! Come to my shop, I give you pager and a cell phone! Jewelry!
There's not enough Armenian rap. For those of you who don't know, I did a rap song for the Kevin and Bean morning show in Los Angeles on K-Rock. God, a long time ago. I don't know, 15 years ago. Something like that. And my friend Lightning, Jay Tillis, we decided we should make a video to this because it's so funny. And at that time, the morning show had an Armenian intern, Misak Tokmachian, who went on to work for Petros and Money. Misak's a good dude. He's like, dude, you're in. Let's go film this in Glendale. I got plenty of buddies who are down. One of them drives a BMW, like reference it in the song. Let's go. And so I put on like this like silk shirt and drew in my eyebrows to be one unibrow, and we filmed the video for it. And then they posted that on YouTube, and it blew the fuck up. And I did get some hate, but it wasn't. I got plenty of love. There was plenty of Armenian people who were like, "This shit's hysterical," and I would meet them in person. But it happened. There were online mostly though. It was people like, "I fuck you, bro. I'm going to kill you, stab you in the fucking heart, bro." But it wasn't overwhelming. It was a good balance. Most people knew, it's like, I couldn't make that shit as a non-Armenian guy if I didn't clearly have a pretty good working understanding of the American Armenian culture. And because I have so many Armenian friends, I grew up on the east side of Los Angeles. I didn't grow up in Glendale, but I grew I have a ton of knowledge and experience and history and love for Armenian people. I couldn't do that if I didn't. And I think that's shown through in the song. But there was still some people who just didn't. They weren't ready to hear that. They were like, "You're making fun of Armenians. You're going to pay." And Armenian people are not people you want to fuck with. They are a pretty close-knit group of people. Drew and I speculated that people who were involved in potential genocide. No, I mean, to break serious for a second. In modern history, the only ones that I've encountered in my life has been Jewish people and Armenian people. And I got to tell you, the two most close-knit communities that I can think of. Like, they just do, you mess with one Armenian, you're fucked. It's all of everyone in Armenia is flying to come get your, and of course, Jews have a long legacy of being very tight knit, and the community aspect of Judaism is one that I actually appreciate very much, and I think that there's a big aspect of organized religion that's what really, where the value really comes in. And unfortunately, that's one of the biggest aspects that I think has deteriorated in modern times. And that's why most people, the statistics show, at least in this country, people are subscribing less and less to organized religion, because I think that the biggest value I've seen, and then one of the aspects that when I would go to bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs and things, I was like, wow, well, these people are very close. It's a legitimate community. And I always held that in great regard as a goyim. So anyway, yeah, so let's go. That's a long-winded way of answering the brow down question. My son is, the Franco show says my son is 14. He's 5'9", 170. He learned a 3-day split push-pull legs through his football team. What exercises would you recommend for a young beginner athlete? Or what would you do if you could start all over at 14? Also, effing love the show, man. I cried listening to your story the other day. Love you, man. And thank you much. Oh, thank you, dude. Thank you, Franco Show. It really means a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, okay, so 14. Long gone is the old wives' tale that it's going to stunt, lifting weights is going to stunt your growth. But regardless of what, and your son's 5'9", 170, so I don't, he's not, by no means, he's not like small, but he's not someone that I was like, okay, he's going to be a fucking offensive lineman. So I never, ever think that people, especially young people, should get away from really working on running. And I don't mean long distance running. I mean the mechanics and the disciplined practice of sprinting. Okay, generating force off your toes like that and being able to sprint is the most valuable human function. The hormonal benefits, the athletic benefits, and then getting, practicing to get better at sprinting makes everything better. Force development, like say broad jumps, jump squats, split squats, trap bar deadlifts, things like that. There's no athletic endeavor that doesn't affect positively. Everything is affected positively. Leanness, muscularity, reaction time, power development, it's all there. So I would recommend sprinting, and then not only just doing sprints, but figuring out ways to get better and better at it. It's always it's a very small margin of like what you can improve with your sprinting, but if you can improve your mechanics, if you can get your body more relaxed, but more capable of contracting quickly, like that's just worth its weight in gold. I would work on, because at 14 it's real hard, because your ego, especially in the weight room, is real big. Working on deadlift mechanics, because a lot of young kids are deadlifting nowadays, but they are all trying to beat their buddy on Instagram. And they very quickly get into a position where they're fucking doing terrible looking deadlifts and they're going to hurt themselves. Having that ego in check and like just hammering home incredible deadlift form and just powerful hips, like developing really powerful hips. Those are the two. Because if I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have wasted so much time fucking trying to bench press and bench press people, right? Impress them with my bench press numbers. It's like, it really didn't carry over that much. I'm not saying don't bench, and I'm not saying don't train the vertical their horizontal push. What I am saying is like, I just got obsessive about that, and I just didn't really start squatting and deadlifting until a couple years later. So run sprints, work on footwork, and just like really be meticulous about developing perfect deadlifts. Burning Shaba says, hey Mike, just about 4 weeks in as a white belt in BJJ, absolutely loving it. 2 questions. Any tips for a brand newbie, and how should I try to balance your suggested 3 days a week lifting routine, which has been working really well for me to drop some fat? I want to roll as much as often as possible, but am noticing how gassed I am with my current calorie deficit. Well, yeah, look, a caloric deficit is not the time to be making tremendous performance gains. But people have a lot of questions about balancing jiu-jitsu and weight training. And the reality is that you can build to the point where you can train for hypertrophy. And I mean, look at Gordon Ryan, look at Nicky Rodriguez. But that's after years and years and years of fine-tuning their ability to train on the mats. And what I mean by that is, even if they go hard, it's not going to be as taxing to them because their movements are so efficient. Okay? And the reason you're gassing out, I'm going to tell you, if you're 4 weeks in burning Shaba, I can tell you this, I almost guarantee it. The reason you're gassing out so much is because, not because of your caloric deficit, it's because you're still too tense. It goes with every combat sport. I have it happen. I had it happen in jiu-jitsu. I had it happen in boxing. I have it happen in Muay Thai. You have to get to the point where you are in control of your breath and you are composed, because when you're tense and I was the same way. I'm not talking shit because I went through it, and I'm pretty sure almost everyone who's ever got on the mats and as a white belt went through this. But you're in there and you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And the next thing you know, you're going full bore with someone who knows what they're doing, and you go like this, and you're like, fuck, please don't pull my arm, just fuck, protect my neck, and everything's contracted all the time, and you hold your breath, and you lose sight of composure. And regardless of if your cardiovascular, your VO2 max, and your power endurance, regardless of if they made zero improvement, when you get to the point when you can roll, even hard rolls, and not be super tense, you'll be shocked at what a difference it makes. Fucking shocked. Because I used to do C2 rowing circuits like crazy, and I would eat carbs right before I go in. I do everything, and I'd be like, why the fuck? I am not this out of shape. And the truth is that I was always too tense. And I would gas quick. Same with Muay, as soon as you were able to and just relax, and be able to move in a way where you can practice and get better without constantly being tense. Of course, someone leg kick and shit, your heart rate's going to go up a little bit. Or if someone is choking you, rolls you into an armbar, there's going to be those moments. It's a very athletic endeavor. What I'm saying is when it comes to combat sports, so much of gassing out is just being more composed, and you will prevent yourself from gassing out as quickly and as much as you do once you just start to, regardless of what's happening, just be like, shh, 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 and you just be cognizant of your breathing and calm down. Just relax, man, relax. One of the amazing, I've been really lucky that wherever I trained in jiu-jitsu has always been like a stellar experience. I first started with my friend Orlando Sanchez, ADCC champion. We were friends long before jiu-jitsu ever came into the thing. And I love Orlando. We're very close. He got me into jiu-jitsu, right? And so I trained with him for the first 2 or 3 years. Then I moved to Venice and I started training at Crone Gracie's Academy. And Crone was a great teacher. He really was. He's obviously an excellent practitioner, but he was a great teacher, and he's a really good guy. I like Crone a lot too. But Hickson and Crone, because Hickson would come and teach the daytime class every once in a while, especially when Crone was preparing to fight in MMA. And Crone and Hickson would constantly, hammer home breathing as a fundamental part of jiu-jitsu. That's how important it was to them, that the idea of purposeful breathing, they looked at it as like guard. It was a fundamental pillar of doing jiu-jitsu. So keep that in mind. And then as far as working in, just if you're new and it's really important to you to get better at jiu-jitsu, which is great, don't lift weights right before you go do jiu-jitsu. And I would say try to, at least for the time being, stay away from hypertrophy-based rep ranges and weights that are going to get you super sore. Developing strength right now, especially in your hips and your grip, upper back, things like that, this is okay. This is good. And it doesn't take that much training to do that. It takes consistency for 2 or 3 days a week. And just don't, I really caution people to not get into the I'm going to get jacked, I'm going to do Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's program when you're also trying to concurrently do something really skill-based in an athletic endeavor. Because being super fucking sore, the type of training that it takes in the gym to get jacked makes you super sore. And being super sore fucks up your athletic ability. Okay? There's no MMA fighter, professional boxer, MMA fighter, NFL football player that is doing the high rep squats for big weight, in season. It's not happening. No one of any type of athletic ability or having any athletic ambition would ever do that. You're not seeing people at the Olympic Village during the Olympics fucking, let's go, buddy. No, there's a time and a place for hypertrophy. And it's not when you're trying to get better at something that's very physical, okay? As I said in the beginning, check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it. If you're interested in personal training or more in-depth kind of assistance. Having the accountability of reporting back to someone and having them look at your performance in the gym and then with your eating, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of value there, really. And if you've just been struggling to kind of get over that hump, you're aware of what you want to do, and you've been putting in the effort, but there's like some little thing that's causing you the resistance from making that jump. I really do think like some type of mentor or personal trainer can be a huge thing. I still train with people. I am pretty positive I know exactly what I need to do in the gym, and I know exactly what I need to be eating to get me there. But the idea of having someone to report to is invaluable, and you can never know enough. So check it out. There's 3 separate tiers for 3 separate levels of perks and shit on my Patreon. Thank you to all my sponsors, and thank you to you, the Mikey Likes You viewer/listener. Seriously. I started this show out of boredom, certainly not out of any desire to like make it a big thing. And now I've gotten to the point where it's like, let's go, let's do this, let's make it a thing. And I'm only gonna make it get better. I promise you that. And I just can't thank you enough, because I wouldn't have this desire to do it, or it wouldn't really be anything to do if it wasn't for the fact that someone out there is listening and viewing it and coming back for more. So thank you. And you're a big legend. Remember that. I mean it. We all need to be told that. I really do feel like since, even if your life has got back to somewhat of normalcy since COVID, I just don't feel like there's enough people telling people nice shit since COVID happened. I feel like that's a lost thing. Because everyone understandably, got really depressed. The isolation and everything, there was a level of despondency that just struck through all of us. And so I want to say, you're a big time legend. You're kicking ass. Continue doing it. All right. In this crazy mixed up world that makes you think that nobody cares, remember, I do. Be good.